Sixers fans, you should be fired up and you should be excited about this aspect of the team. Maybe not just this season, but for the future as a whole. I think what the Sixers are doing with a certain aspect of the roster is in the right direction where the NBA is headed in terms of teams that are winning championships, winning titles, and winning a lot of games. So before we get into what exactly that is, today's poll question, go ahead in the comment section and answer it for me. And be honest, how excited are you for this 76er season? I know last year, a big disappointment, but this year, theoretically, should be a lot better. So are you excited? Scale it from me 1 to 10. 1, you're not excited at all. 10, you'll be tuned into every single game. If you are that excited, be sure to subscribe because I'm covering it every step of the way. So why I'm excited for this iteration of the Sixers roster, especially as we look into the future, is the way the Sixers are constructing the team with the right skill sets and drafting, in particular, the right players to get their team in a position where really they haven't been over the past decade or so. Look, in today's NBA, when I look across the NBA and I look at where the most successful teams are, how they're built, and the kind of players they rely on, shot making and shot creating really is king, in my opinion. Now, there's a lot of things, of course, that an NBA team needs to do well to be very good. It's not just one thing, right? Got to be great defensively. You got to rebound the ball. You got to have good ball movement, have a good coach. But you got to have guys that can make shots and set up shots for themselves and others creating shots for themselves, right? When you get into the NBA, into the playoffs, and deep into the playoffs, defenses tighten up. So, yeah, your defense has to be better, but you got to be able to perform. And a lot of times, that's just guys hitting tough shots and creating for themselves and others. And when you look at some of the most successful teams in the NBA, especially from this past season, obviously the Oklahoma City Thunder, we know, won the title. But who are they led by, of course? We know the MVP, Finals MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. What does he do best? It is creating shots for himself and creating shots for others. But even their secondary star, Jalen Williams, he is also a tremendous shot creator. He's able to get to his spots, make his own shots. But it's not just those two. They have other guys on the roster that, yeah, they have guys that must play complementary roles, that play their own positions. You know, Alex Caruso, Aaron Wiggins on the roster as well, Lou Dort, right? But even like Chet Holmgren can go out and get his own shot from time to time. They have other guys that are able to make things happen. And ultimately, that's what you need. Even the Minnesota Timberwolves, right? Look at the way they lost in 5 games to the Thunder in the Western Conference Finals. They have Anthony Edwards, one of the best players in the NBA, no doubt. He can get his own shot whenever he wants. But outside of him, right, you have Julius Randle, who can be very up and down. When he's on, he is on. When he's off, it doesn't look very great. Outside of him, they don't have a whole lot of other guys that are really creating for others, right? Naz Reid can do that, but he wasn't showing that ability in the playoffs. Jaden McDaniels isn't much of a shot creator. Obviously, Rudy Gobert is not creating anything out there on the floor. So they needed more of that in the playoffs, and they didn't get that, and that's a part of the reason, not the entire reason, but a part of the reason why they lost. Look at the Indiana Pacers, for example, a team that is just loaded with guys that can get shots. Obviously, Tyrese Halliburton, prayers up to him in his recovery. He excels at, creating shots for himself, but especially creating shots for others. But he did show an ability in his playoffs to get his own shot and create space. Andrew Nembhard also does a great job of that. Aaron Nesmith can do that. Pascal Siakam can do that. Benedict Mathurin can do that. TJ McConnell can do that. They have guys that can go out and get a bucket when you need it. And because they had so many different guys that can do that, they often exceed expectations because they have different guys stepping up in different moments. And they don't just have guys on the floor that are just sitting in the corner waiting for something to happen. They have guys that want the ball, they can attack with it all over the floor. Look at the Knicks, right? The Knicks, obviously a very talented team. Very talented starting 5, and they're looking very good heading into next season. But I think one of their biggest issues for them to get over the hump is it too much Jalen Brunson, right? When you look at their offense, and look at their typical starting 5, right? Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, OG Anunoby, Karl-Anthony Towns, maybe Mitchell Robinson, depending on where they want to go, right? Who else on that team is handling the rock and creating open shots for others? Mikal Bridges doesn't really do that at a very high level. OG Anunoby doesn't really do that at a very high level. They're great wings, but they're better playing off the ball. Karl-Anthony Towns, he could be here and there. I think, though, offensively, not like the kind of perimeter creator that I'm really alluding to in this kind of game. Someone like, a Pascal Siakam for the Pacers can create in the perimeter. Karl-Anthony Towns, not quite as much. So when the Pacers would pressure Jalen Brunson, there was really no one else to pick up that slack. So you look at the Sixers roster, right? And I said I'm kind of excited about the way Philadelphia is building the roster because I think they're building it in such a way that they have a lot of different guys that can create shots or at least project to be able to. Look, obviously, you have Tyrese Maxey, who is your foundational piece. He's the franchise. He's the future. Obviously, he can get his own shot whenever he wants. There's no issues there. But then also have a lot of other guys coming up on this roster that I think can do that. And we'll kind of run through all these guys here. Again, starting with Tyrese Maxey, there's no question what he can do with the ball in his hands. I think he could take another step up by taking more advantage of, his speed and the attention he creates to create for others as well. That's like the final evolution in his game to really become a truly, truly elite point guard. Also, finding more ways to draw that contact like an SGA, getting better in that mid-range area, having a little more control to his game, although you don't want to lose his speed. That's such a big part of his game. Tyrese Maxey, obviously a dog, obviously in that kind of archetype that can create from the perimeter. Jared McCain as well showed a lot more ability than I think a lot of people thought he had in those limited games he played for the Sixers last season in creating his own shot. Especially I was impressed with him getting to the mid-range, hitting a little fadeaway jumper, getting to that free throw line elbow area, and hitting a step back. Just better than I thought because he's not a great athlete at getting his own shots. So if he can continue that, and hopefully the injury doesn't take too much of that away, although, again, doesn't rely on athleticism too much to begin with, that could be huge for the Sixers team to have another guy that can create when things go wrong. Same thing with Quentin Grimes, right? In his entire career, Quentin Grimes has never been much of an on-ball player. He's kind of been this guy who will stay in the perimeter, he'll shoot efficiently from three, he'll make the right cuts, and he'll be there when you need him to, and he'll be a very good defender as well. And he still is all those things. But when he was handed the keys at the end of the season for Philadelphia, he had a chance to do something he really never had a chance to do before, and that was lead an offense that would show what he can do on the ball. And do I think he'll be quite as good as he was at the end of last season? Probably not, because he won't have that opportunity. He showed some tremendous skills as a lead guard, creating shots for himself. I don't think he'll ever be a great creator for others, but man, he was really able, hitting step back threes, driving to the rim, just stuff you would never have seen him do before because he got that opportunity. So I love the fact that you also have Grimes, who now the third guy on the scene that we're mentioning, who from the perimeter can break down the defense and get a bucket. And then BJ Edgecombe as well. This is an area of his game he'll definitely have to develop, and he'll have to come along. He's just a rookie. There's no real rush. But he's another guy, especially with his athleticism, who projects to be someone who you can give the ball to, and he can create, especially getting downhill, attacking the basket. But he's shown some signs of that three-point jumper as well. And with the Summer League team, the Sixers have really been focused on developing his primary point guard skills. So you can see where their priorities are in building him up as a player. So that's four guys right there that I've mentioned for the Sixers that could end up being tremendous self-creators, which I think you need in today's NBA. Now, some Sixers fans are going to look at this and what I'm talking about here today, and they're going to say, I disagree. I think Sixers are too guard heavy. They need more forwards, they need more big bodies, they need more 3-and-D wings. They have too many guards. Look, I just disagree. I think that with the way the guards all play, they can play well off each other. You can have three of them on the floor at the same time, either Maxey or McCain, and then also VJ and Quentin Grimes. So I think they can play together. They have good skill sets, and I don't have an issue with them all being on this roster and getting minutes. Now, that being said, the Sixers do certainly have some issues still, right? Especially with the size and with the rebounding, which was a big problem for last year and a big problem with being so guard heavy and having all these players on the roster in that archetype. But look, Sixers had a lot of issues last season, right? And you cannot fix everything in one off season. Philadelphia did not have a whole lot of flexibility to make major moves. So I think Daryl Morey did what he could. And that's why I love the idea of bringing in someone like a VJ Edgecombe in particular, pairing him up with McCain, with Maxey, with Grimes. A lot of Sixers fans want to say, oh, you're probably going to trade one of them, and maybe you will end up trading one of them, but I think if you have all of them and they're all able to play off each other, create their own shots, create for others, man, you could have a pretty nasty 4-guard combo with even 3 of them on the floor at once that could just be getting buckets when you need them most in the postseason. Before we hop on out of here, look, I tell you guys about a lot of deals here on the show. I'm never going to tell you about a deal that's better than this one on the Sixers cutoff short sleeve hoodie here. Was $100. Guys, it's just $35 right now. That is insane. Again, you're not going to find a deal better than that. And not only is it a great deal, but it's a great look as well. I love the color scheme. You can wear it really any time of the year because it's a hoodie, but it's also short sleeve. It's comfortable in a lot of different weather conditions, so you can get it right now, rock it during the summer, and then keep it with you for the winter months. Chatsports.com/Sixers hoodie. Plug in that link. It'll take you to Fanatics. You can take advantage of this great deal before it goes away. These are flying off the shelf, so make sure you take advantage. Again, chatsports.com/Sixers hoodie. To round out today's show, final question here for you guys, going back to what I said about all these guards on the Sixers roster. I think it's a plus for this team with their skill sets, but some people think it's a negative. So what say you? Are the Sixers too guard heavy? Are they too reliant on some of these smaller guards? Give me a Y for yes. Give me an N for no. Appreciate you all tuning in, and we'll see you next time right here on the show.